Welcome along to this episode of Voices of Fostering, where today I'm joined by one of our lovely team at the National Fostering Group. Welcome to the podcast, Supervising Social Worker, Kathryn Bennett. Hello, Kathryn.
Hello.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us. So, Kathryn, you've been a supervising social worker for quite a long time, haven't you? Tell us about your career, really, and what you did before you were doing this role.
Wow, right. I've done this role for 16 years. It's a long, I'll do it very quickly. I started in 1986 when I left uni because I wanted to be a primary school teacher and it just wasn't right for me. And my lecturer said, social work is for you.
Right, okay.
And it's the best advice she ever gave me. So I started working for my local authority at first in different children's units. I was called a house parent that length of time ago, not a residential worker. And from there I then moved into working with, prior to what were youth offending teams. They weren't called that then. And then I became a family support worker. I did a little bit of leaving care. And then I specialised for many, many years with young people, drugs and alcohol. Probably for about 14 years, I think I did that. With little bits of secondments. I did a little bit of teenage pregnancy and a little bit of this. It was called that then. Obviously, this is a while ago. Worked my way up, became a manager of a young person's drug and alcohol team with quite a big team around me, completely multi-agency. And then I had, don't know if it was an epiphany, I don't know. I decided that I'd done my time.
Yeah.
And somebody advised that all my skills could be utilised as a supervising social worker. And I saw the advert literally within weeks of that person telling me that for NFA. Rang up the number and spoke to the manager at the time, and who said, "Yeah, I think you need to apply."
Yeah.
And I did, and that was I want to say I was interviewed in November 2009, and I started in February the 1st, 2010.
Yeah, and you haven't looked back.
Very brief.
Yeah. So you said there at the beginning, Kathryn, that your lecturer said that they thought social work was for you. What do you think it was that they saw in you that they thought would make a good social worker?
It's quite bizarre because I've been in one of the schools now with in this role. I'd done a teaching placement in Bootle in a primary school because I was quite interested in what was called then top juniors, top year, which is now 4, 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. The children were interactive and I really liked the way they were. And then they put me in a school, a very small village school, very nice, and literally the children were really nice to me. So no way I can describe it. And I just felt this isn't for me. And she sat me down and I had to go through why I like the school in Bootle. And one of my year 6s, some of the high school had walked past, gone in and tried to steal a coat. So she'd given what for, basically, and told them that they weren't taking her coat at age 11. And she was just a character. And their lives were so different from my home life.
Yeah.
I had a very caring, nurturing upbringing. Very different because my granddad was my childminder. So a very different upbringing in the 60s and 70s that most people were used to. Because it's usually not a male who's your childminder, but mine was. So I was quite shocked at how these children lived, their background. The swearing was a completely, I won't use the words they used me at age 5, but they were I wasn't used to being told how tired they were in quite distinct language.
Yeah.
And then I went to this other school, which was a really nice school. And I was going to say, I've actually had a young person in that school since being in this role. And the needs of the children were different to the needs in that school in Bootle. And that it was from talking to that lecturer, she said, it's social work for you. That's what your skills are. And she advised me to write to my local authority, which I did, and luckily landed on the desk of a man called Jeff, who'd actually done exactly the same thing as me, and he understood how I felt, rang me up. I went in and I did voluntary work at first for the local authority. Work had to be, was it police check then, but you have to be checked. So I worked in children's units, and then they offered me, somebody went on long-term sick, and they said, since I had been checked, I'd been working, could I step into the role? And I did in August. I know it's on my pension, August the 26th, 86 is when I started for that local authority. And that was it. It just, opened another world to me.
So you just felt really drawn, Kathryn, to working with children who were from more challenging upbringings, really more challenging backgrounds.
Completely, yeah. For me, I don't know if it's right, with their character, they were resilient. They would talk to you, they expressed themselves, and you could see that they had trauma and were dealing. Obviously, this is the late 80s, early 90s, but they were trying to deal with it themselves. And especially in the children's unit, I mean, nowadays, it'd be smart because they shared bedrooms. We'd put complete straight girls. Obviously, it was to one gender each unit, each bedroom, but they would share. None of the safeguarding risks that we're aware of now. And but it was how they spoke to you and how you could listen to them, and they some of them wouldn't listen to you, which is fair enough, but how they spoke and expressed themselves, and we're grateful sometimes just to be away and just to be safe, and for somebody to listen to them. That's what I'm probably saying, is that they wanted somebody to listen to them, because nobody had, for whatever reason, and just give them that support and that nurture that some of them had, but not quite in the ways that they should. And I learned so much. I had really good mentors, because I was only 21 at the time, and I had how one young lad, you'd buy him on Christmas Day, they had presents. By Christmas night, they'd smashed them all because they didn't want somebody to take them off them.
Yeah.
So they'd break them or smash them so you couldn't hurt them. You couldn't take those things off them that they valued, because that's what they were used to. So they would break it themselves. And that was just an eye-opener to me, to be taught that and to work with them, that they didn't have to. We could care for their toys or their clothes. They didn't have to be broken, so that they were theirs.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I learnt about bin bags. Don't send a child home with a bin bag. Because they would come in with bin bags, and I can remember distinctly they had no wardrobes, but they had a shelf in different rooms. And when they moved on, we had to buy suitcases for them. They weren't allowed to move out, and that's 1986, 87, 88. So even then, children were being brought that their life was in a bin bag. Which, what did it say about them?
Yeah,
it always stuck with me, learning that so young. That if they think that their belongings are in a bin bag, what does that mean to them?
Yeah.
That's their life.
So your whole working life now, Kathryn, has been, helping and supporting children and young people. And you say you've been with the National Fostering Group as a supervising social worker for 16 years. So tell us about what a supervising social worker does.
Wow. For me, it's support and advice. That you are there for the foster carer. From us, I go from the training to assessments, to talking to potential foster carers who want to be, giving that handhold, and just using your experience, but also using other foster carers' experience, linking them in. So we offer really good support compared to the local authority where I came from, that they can be supported, they're given advice, anything they need, we're there to help them if they're struggling, but also that we've also formulated a self-help group with themselves, with the carers. Sometimes they want to hear it from somebody who's been there, who's done that, and I've not. I'm always on the outside looking in. I can give you all the experience. I've worked with hundreds of young people, and I can give you my advice, but I've never lived, I lived with children millions of years ago, not recently. So that's my role, is to support them in meetings, support them with the children's behaviour, support them with their training, their knowledge, to expand their skills, develop their knowledge, to be able to support any young person that comes into their home. So I see that as my role.
Yeah. And you're also quite passionate as well, Kathryn, aren't you, about not just having children and young people in foster families, but parents with their children. So tell us about that.
It was one of the things when I first came over, I was asked to do, because I'd done some work with teenage pregnancy. And we worked really hard on it at the time. And me and the trainer at the time, we had meetings and we devised a training plan. It's about, and when we say parents, we don't actually mean teenagers. We mean parents. And the oldest parent I've had in is 33.
Yeah, this is really interesting, Kathryn, because I think initially I thought that, we've talked before on the podcast about, sort of teenagers who've become pregnant and then they want to keep the child with them and they go and live in a foster family. But a lot of the time it can be older people as well, can't it?
Yeah, and we say parents because we can have fathers. We don't say mum and baby. It's parents, because I've had a couple as well. I've had a mum and a dad in placement with their child, and I know people have had just fathers in. It's to rather than bring a baby into care, or a child, because I've had toddlers or siblings, and then they parents are observed in family centres, bring them into a safe place. So the foster carer, they live in your home. And I remember the very first time my carer really struggled, because I always remember saying, I want to watch Coronation Street, and the parent wants to sit with me, and she wasn't. So, but luckily she did have 2 rooms, and we could sort that out. And then after that, she flew. I can't tell you, she's had so many parent-child placements since then. But it's about offering them, giving them guidance, giving them support. Sometimes the child is in the parent's room, and we would recommend at those times with local authority and signing paperwork that there is a baby cam only over the cot, not on the room, it's just on the cot. Or the baby can actually be in your room, and you'd wake up at night and you would wake up the parent to feed the child. So it's just for safety. And after a while, the child then moves into, once we know the risks, sometimes we're well aware of them at the beginning, sometimes we're not. But the older placements tend to be more successful than the teenagers, because the older parent knows this is their chance to get it right.
Yeah.
They might have had a child taken off them previously, and this is the reason why they've been brought into. The parent's not in care; it's the child that's in care, and there's strict, boundaries around it. Who does what, who does this, how much who spends, who does that. So at the placement meeting, it's very itemised what you can do, who does what. Is the parent allowed to leave the house with the child? Because sometimes they're not, unless they're supervised, and sometimes they're quite happily. So it always depends on, everyone is an individual placement. Sometimes they work out really, really well.
Yeah.
And I've had quite a lot of parents move home, and I know they're still at home because they're in contact with my carers. And sadly, when it's not to be, my carers' attitude, all of them, it was that at least they've given that time, that parents had time with the child. We can write about that you did live with your mum or your dad for a while, and this is whatever reason. And then usually the carers support that child then into adoption, or to a family member, which we've had a few, they either go to a family member or they're adopted. So, but yeah, I had quite a big team over the years. It seems to, it's something you either like or you don't. My carers liked it because there's always an ending with a parent, and especially an adult. There will be an ending. If they don't want to foster for long term or for whatever, they know that there will be a time limit to that, and they can have a time. You can have a break in between each placement. So yeah, that was something I really championed at the beginning. And I do smile because I do see paperwork now, and I laugh because I know I wrote that 15 years ago. And I see it in things. Go on, me and the trainer wrote that, so it's still being used. People won't have a clue where it came from. They won't realise it came 15 years ago when me and the trainer at the time sat down in the office and wrote it, a checklist: who did what, who did this, who did that. That's still nice to see that some of the work's still being done. I mean, the training has completely changed. It's a 2-day. It went from 2 days to 1 day, but it's something I really think we promoted, and the local authorities used it because they knew, like you say, they knew the child was safe, and they could get a more realistic view on the parent skills. And could they be developed? Could they be enhanced? Or sadly, did they have a learning need that it couldn't happen, or there was a safeguarding need? And it was something that the carers could highlight. And I've had my carers' notes used in court as well. They're not the template is very. It's not that we expect you to write. We give you a template, so it's quite easy to follow. It's not as if you think, oh, what do I write? The template's there, you follow it. It's so we're asking you questions all the time, and I've just buddied up one of my parent childcare with somebody who's interested in doing it.
Oh, brilliant!
So,
Well, it sounds like you've had such a positive impact on so many people over the years, and it's really good to chat to people like you, Kathryn, because it helps people to understand that when they go into their fostering journey, the people that support them, they really care. Because you can tell that, this isn't just a job to you, is it?
No,
it's not. Yeah, you really, really care. So what would you say, I don't know, what's my question really? I suppose my question is, what does it mean to you really, if you were to sum it up?
It's about giving the best chances to the young people out there. That's what foster carers do. They give them the best chance to, as normal, don't like that word, as life as they can in a safe and caring place, and that's what they do. You take the little rewards as big rewards. That's something we have to remind carers that, little rewards mean a lot. A smile, a thank you can mean absolutely everything. So that's what it means. It's about giving young people another life that they might have not had, with the nurture and support that they need to fulfill whatever their potential is, whatever that might be, whether it be just the fact that they go to school and we get more attendance than they've ever had, or they learn to read, because we have some children who can't read or write, or, and they learn skills, learn how to wash their hair. I had a child who didn't know how to wash their hair. So it's simple little things like that foster carers do. They improve a young person's life.
Well, it's been so lovely to chat to you, Kathryn, and anybody listening or watching now who's thinking about, getting on that fostering journey, the type of people that you're going to meet that are going to support you are like lovely Kathryn. So thank you so, so much. And best of luck with the next 16 years.
Probably not.
We'll see. Thanks so much, Kathryn.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to find out more, head online and search National Fostering Group and make this the year you foster.